Okay, so welcome everyone that's in the room here today in regards to the C19 Biz Booster series. Get started very shortly. Okay, very good. Rightio, I'm Clinton Begg. I'll be taking us through the program here today, or the webinar today. We've got an hour of which we're going to be going through business planning and the importance of business planning at this point in time. As you'd be aware, the C19 series is proudly brought to you by Business Station and also the Australian Federal Government to assist small and medium-sized business owners through this time. Joining me here today is Tania Begg. She'll actually going through the business planning side of things, or the component in regards to the business planning. And I'll also be I'll be talking about the importance of once you actually have a business plan, why you actually need to execute it through digital. So Tania, are you okay to share your screen there?
Yes, I am. Yep. I'll just get that ready.
Yeah, off you go when you're ready.
Okay, everyone can see that? You can see that, Clinton?
Yep, off you go.
Good. Okay, good morning to WA and good afternoon to everyone else. So as Clinton said, I'm going to talk to you about your business planning. So essentially this is your why, your business strategy. And we're going to talk about it in a slightly different way due to our current circumstances. But one thing that's always important when we are looking at delivering our business strategy and putting our business plan together is that analysis and preparation, taking the time to actually look at our business, find out what our current state is so that we can move forward. And it actually is very important whenever you're looking at any sort of marketing, put any marketing in play, that there is a business strategy and business plan behind it. You need that there to guide what the marketing does, what your digital strategy does. So what we're looking at today is not going to be this full-blown business plan. It's much more of a condensed version. Because normally when we're looking at business planning, we're looking 3 to 5 years out. And really for most businesses, you look 3 years out because everything changes so quickly. So with our current state, so what happened since March and where we are now, it's created a different environment. So really in this sort of environment, we want to be looking, possibly 3 to 6 months out. So we want to be able to get some runs on the board. And really why I'm saying 3 to 6 months is because there's still a fair bit of uncertainty out there at the moment regarding our businesses. So we want to focus on that immediate future, what can help us now, but also put us in good stead for further down the track. So really, we're condensing this down to a smaller business planning process. So that I'm still saying we need to do some analysis and preparation for it. And what sits behind that is so that you can actually deliver to the market what your messaging is saying, so what your digital strategy is saying. So taking the time to prepare, look at where things are now, even before COVID, and any actions that need to be taken. And that's key here. We need to actually take the actions. And because that's going to support our digital strategy and help us to implement that successfully. Okay. So that's the start, the purpose of why I'm here. So now we're going to get you thinking about what are your priorities at this time? And for some of us, our priorities may simply to be operating, to actually be open and doing what we're doing and providing our service. So when you think about your digital strategy, what is missing? What are the, and what are the priorities then? What's missing from the current digital strategy? So to make it easy and don't make it too difficult, possibly just think of the top 3 things that are missing from your digital strategy at the moment. But there also may well be priorities for the business as a whole. But really you want to be focusing on now and making that happen. So, and some of these things are really going to be, those priorities will probably be things that are standing out like a sore thumb for you. But there's obviously going to be some other things which may be impacting on those priorities, and we do need to look at them and address them. So that's the first thing. Understand what your priorities are, and when you think about your digital strategy, what are my top 3 things that are missing? That's the first thing to consider. Now, what sits behind that is that, we're all business owners, and in any business, there are often pain points. They can be
So we might have an issue there in regards to the connection with Tania. Tania, can you still hear us okay? You still got us there okay, Tania?
Yeah.
Sorry, you just cut out there a little bit. Just take it back to
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Just take it back to that last point there. Unfortunately, we had a bit of an issue in regards to the your sound there. So let's take it back to that next slide that you went to, please. Yep, that'll be good.
So back here. Okay. All right. So you didn't hear any of what I said.
Yeah, the first little bit we did, but it just cut out. Unfortunately, you froze. So if you can start off, elaborate from there, right?
Sorry.
All right.
Apologies. Okay. So I was talking about what are your priorities at this time. So for some of us, you may have heard me say this, for some of us, it is simply to be operating at this time, to be delivering our service, and to be open to our clients and customers. So when you think about your digital strategy, what are your priorities then? So what do you think is missing in your current digital strategy, which could help you at this time? So I would be, encouraging you to make it easy. Think about the top 3 things that you believe are missing from your digital strategy. Don't make it too hard at this point. Just those top 3 things. For some people, I just want to get into the 21st century. I want to be up to date. But it may be different for you. But what sits behind this is that there are also probably priorities for the business as a whole. And these are things that you want to focus on now and make happen. And these are probably things that are standing out like a sore thumb for you. And however, there also may be other things that will possibly be impacting on these priorities, which we'll talk about next. So to summarise, start to think about what is missing from my digital strategy that could help me now, my top 3 that I would need to look at. Okay? All right. So now when we move to the next slide, I mentioned that there may be other things that are impacting on the priorities in your business, in your digital strategy. These can be pain points. And these are things that we really need to focus on addressing. And like it says there on the slide, we want to be able to remove these issues which impede our business performance. So, some of this, we're probably focusing a lot on internal stuff rather than some of the external things we can't control. And the other thing around these pain points is that some might be new, but some may have been existing prior to our current situation, prior to COVID, prior to lockdown. And these are the sorts of things around resourcing issues, people issues, supplier issues. It could even be service issues that you just work around all the time. You know how we do that? We just keep going and work around those issues. But meanwhile, they can be a source of frustration, but we never address them. So if you can think about what those pain points are, and hopefully there are some things popping straight into your head as we're talking about it, if they are simple fixes, then why not actually get in and do what needs to be done to remove that issue from your business? Because the fact is, it could be costing you time and money. The other thing is if it's not a simple fix, then let's investigate ways that you can start to remove the issues, start moving towards removing that issue. Because the thing is that once we start getting some quick wins on the board and we remove those issues, those obstacles that are in our path, then we're actually, we are motivated to keep going, to keep removing those things, but then start working on things that help our business perform. The other thing around this too is document the actions you're going to take. And that might sound, you know, sometimes it might sound like, do I really have to do that? You know, do I really need to be writing these things down, even for the simplest things? But again, it's that motivation of ticking this off and getting it done. But the other key to that is putting time frames on it. So be specific about when you need to get these actions done. So not just saying, I'll do this in 3 weeks' time, because that 3 weeks' time can keep shifting depending on when you're saying that. So you have a specific date and year. So 31 October 2020, we're going to have that done. Now, if you are having trouble recognising any pain points or priorities within your business, ask others. Don't be afraid to ask others for help, because sometimes you may not be recognising where some of these pain points or priorities are. So especially if you do have employees within your business, ask them to contribute what they know, what they believe is standing in the way of business performance, because sometimes they know things that we don't know. So involve them in the process. The other thing too, if you do have the time and you can put the effort into it, possibly doing some market research as well. So going to customers and suppliers and asking them about their experience working with your business, what works well and what may not be working well, so that they can help you find those pain points or priorities. Okay. So moving on, we've talked about priorities. And sometimes those priorities can actually be a goal. So we need to have goals to know what we're working towards. So we mentioned right at the very start, we're looking at 3 to 6 months' time. So now is the time to be setting some goals that you want to achieve in the next 3 to 6 months. So remember, this is also about reforming your business. So again, I'm going to harp on about this, but again, like I just said, with the actions that you need to take with your goals, they need to be very specific, and they also need to have time frames on them as well. And you also may want to be setting goals at monthly intervals during this period, just so you've got something to be reaching for. So you might want to say by the 16th of November, we've got 3 new clients, or by the 30th of November, we've got 6 more clients on top of that. Or it might be then by the 11th of December, we've got our the upgrade of our website has started. So really tangible goals that you can see. And obviously with those, because the dates are so important, there are going to be actions that need to sit behind that as well. So putting those in place to make them happen. The other thing about, having these goals, these business goals, is that they're a reference point for when times might be, a bit tough. And when I say tough, you might be run off your feet, which is great, but it means you don't focus on those things sometimes. So obviously we need that time to work on the business rather than in it. The other thing too that I didn't mention as well is, yes, we're setting goals for the business, but also it's really beneficial to set some personal goals for yourself, because what we need to remember is that these businesses are the vehicles to achieving our personal goals. So having those in place is also a good reference point to go back when you're thinking, gee, how am I going to get through this period? Keep going back to those personal goals as well. The other thing also I would be recommending, once you've set your goals, you know that there's actions that you have to take. Because it's such a short time frame, maybe fortnightly or every 3 weeks, take a look at, how are we going? Are we progressing towards achieving this goal? What actions haven't we taken? Why not? And let's get back on track and get those actions done. And again, don't do it all on your own. If you've got employees in the business, utilise them as well. It's good for their growth and also helps shed the light, which is helpful for you. Other thing around the goals, it's also really helpful to put them somewhere where you can see them. So somewhere visual. You know, you can put them, you know, I have mine up on a board for myself so I can see them every day. They're right in front of me when I'm sitting at my laptop and working. Other people may want to put them on their desktop, you know, however, whatever works best for you, where you can see these goals, it will help you to focus on them because they're right in front of you, and it keeps your mind on that, you know, end game of what you want to achieve. Okay, and moving on to, okay, you know, what needs to be addressed to develop your digital strategy. Now, it may seem like, you know, we might be repeating what we've done with those questions that we've already gone through, but it's always possible that we may not capture, you know, everything that we need. So this is that last prompt, you know, from the previous questions to look at, well, what needs to be addressed to develop our digital strategy? Because, you know, like I said at the start, you don't want to be putting messaging there that you can't deliver on. Okay. You know, there's nothing worse than that. And then we're in, you know, then you've got so much work coming in and you're backpedaling because you haven't got the foundations in behind you to make it happen easily. So, you know, those things that you might want to be thinking about that you need to address to develop your digital strategy are things like, you know, building or updating the website, internet issues like we just had a few minutes ago, so connectivity, those sorts of things. What products can we sell online if that's appropriate for your business? What can we do? Can we sell things online? And you know, the other thing too is, you know, what are those things we've wanted to do in the past but we didn't do? You know, something different. We just put it on the back burner. You know, maybe now's the time to take a look at it and say, hey, it's time to try this. See see how it goes. So those new ways of doing things. But of course, if you do go down that path, make sure you've got everything in place to be able to do it. But trial it. You know, trial it for a month or so and see how it goes, yeah? And come back to it and see how well it went. And again, in that process, I'm going to encourage you to use the help of others if you have them, you know, those employees, and, you know, others that you can utilise their time. And also, you know, use them in assisting you to determine, you know, what other things need to be done to deliver, you know, your product or service, but also develop your digital strategy. So again, through all of this, that the last point, it's about, you know, make sure any actions that you're adding as you go through this, you're going to have to update that action list of things that you have to do and regularly review your progress, because when you know that you've moved from here to here, it is the motivation to keep going and to do more and more to help your business succeed. That's me.
Very good. If you do have a question for Tania, please put it in the chat area, because I'm about to ask you a quick question, Tania, about when in your travels with business consulting and business development, one of the first things to go, especially when times are tough, if they're, you know, in recessionary type activity, for example, where, you know, we face different types of challenges, do you often come across where they go, no, first thing we've got to cut's marketing? That's something that you often hear.
It is one of the things, and you know, I think we saw that a few years ago with certain things that were going on, especially around our region. It was, you know, people cut it. You know, they'll cut it out completely, or they will, you know, lower the spend. You know, and there are some theories around how much of your revenue profit that you should be spending on your marketing. But it's one of those things, and, you know, and then I have a bias towards the work around, you know, leadership and teams. That sort of stuff gets cut too. And the reality is that during these more difficult times, that's when you really should be focusing on things like your marketing, because you can't get out to everybody, can you? I mean, you still have that face-to-face stuff, but that lowers your audience Whereas, especially now, we have so many ways of, using the digital strategy to connect with people, which is so important in every way. Yeah, it is common that people just want to slash and get rid of those things that they see as sometimes the nice fluffy stuff to have, and really they're not nice and fluffy.
Rightio. Well, if you do have a question for Tania after I finish my little presentation here, and we can have an open discussion, I believe, on the chat here, by all means, please put them in the chat area. I'm just going to share my screen now. You can see that okay, Tania? Fine. Okay, so flowing through, as this is obviously a series. So this is a series proudly presented by Business Station, and it's a series around, I suppose, primarily planning. So from a business internal planning point of view, right through to things like your digital marketing or your marketing planning. Obviously, yes, there are forms of traditional marketing that we still use, we still engage with, but more often than not now, it's more along that digital marketing aspect that we are finding more and more people are obviously going to. Okay, so the digital planning aspect is very, very important, and especially probably for me in the last 3 years traveling around Australia in many different areas. I see it so often where people in business don't have a business plan. They don't have a business plan, and for me, that means that they've got no direction. Now, where are you going to land? So, and I think something that Tania just said there before I go into my next slide is what happens is that people have got a business idea, and then they want to start marketing it, or when they market it, they make the mistake of just going for that next golden thing. And then what happens in the case that it does work, is the business actually ready for that influx of people? Is it ready from a marketing point of view to be able to meet people's needs, sales needs? Are they protecting their brand from PR perspective if things just don't go right? And look, I'm going to say to you that from a small sole trader right through to corporate, I've seen corporates, and even a corporate in about 2 months ago, that just weren't getting what I call the bare belly basics right. And you could drive a truck through what they weren't doing at the corporate level. So I just want to have that as food for thought as I go into my planning side of things. Probably 4 key areas that I'm going to focus on in this whole series that we're going through. And today's really like more of an introductory about what we're going to be looking at in the end outcomes is why digital planning? Why do we need to plan our digital? I know it might seem really basic, but are people effectively planning their digital marketing or their digital strategies? How to plan? What tools we actually use to be able to understand good planning? I think Tania mentioned there a little bit earlier there before about, time is money. It most certainly is. A lot of things that we do in the retrieval space is all about time retrieval, getting time back. Okay, as business owners or as marketeers, for example, if you partner with like an agency, or if you have an internal marketing team or a marketing person or individual, it's about knowing how that time retrieval comes back so you can do more. So that's something that I really do hone in on, especially with sole traders, your small business owners. It's all about at this time trying to keep their doors open. But you also need a strategy in order to create that sale. And that is so important to make sure that we know how to plan effectively. What's working for us? If it didn't work, why didn't it work? Is it something that we want to change up a little bit and then re-deliver? These are the type of things that we will actually learn through this process. Objectives. What is it that we want to do? What is it that we want to achieve? Do we want to be able to go into different markets? I know in the state of Queensland, we've got a few people in Western Australia. In Western Australia, same thing as well. I believe that the state governments, localised advocacy groups, for example, have given out grants in different forms, ways, shapes or forms. In Queensland, it's the COVID-19 adaptation group, where small business, for example, could actually purchase digital assets and other things as well to basically get their businesses online, improve their digital footprint, for example. But that digital asset only goes so far unless you know what you want that asset to do and where you want it to go. You know, do you want to sell online? Do you want to have you know, interactions online? So that's the objective. What are we actually wanting to achieve with digital? And the outcomes. Many people would like to suggest that outcomes is the big dollar sign. I like to look at it from the point of view that which at this point in time, especially in recessionary activity, we're trying to get sustainability of our business and or growth through digital. And I think that that's probably very important to understand, is that the outcomes need to be measured in regards to what we want to get from an outcome point of view. Whether we just, you know, we don't want to hear people with business plans say, well, how do you know how you're going? Well, the bank account, well, that's lovely, but it's always about what you're missing out on. What opportunities are you missing out on? So those outcomes are very, very important. If you've got any questions for me while I'm chattering away here, please chuck them in the Zoom webinar chat area, and I'm quite happy to answer them as we go, okay? So how to plan digital? There's many aspects. Some time ago, I actually gave a lady a screenshot of a calendar and said, plan. It's the yearly calendar. Primarily what I like to do in the planning space, and what I'll actually you know, suggest to people and business owners quite regularly, is that you need to start with a minimum 3-month rolling digital plan. Minimum 3 months. And the reason we need to do that is basically what I just said a little bit there before, if we go back in the conversation, is the fact that we need to know that our digital is working for us. How do we know that it's actually working? Do we know what market that we actually want to be planning to go to? So that whole planning process from a technique point of view might be along the lines of digital insights, stats from your socials, stats from your search engines, you know, stats from your websites. Knowing how to understand and plan around that type of information is critical. I was actually talking to a lady this morning who is really doing a really good job with her businesses, fantastic businesses she's got. And she's saying, Clint, I'm now discovering that we've got issues on my website when people are going to order. How do we actually do, how to plan, how do we actually do a better process for a transaction online? So doing the right thing, she's getting the sales coming through her digital platforms, through her website, but the sales process from a planning point of view needs to be re-looked at and re-administered, or I suppose re-engineered to those people online that are in that digital type space. So important, that planning process. Bare Billy Basics 3-month rolling plan. If you have got a retail store, a product or service, etc., you should already be planned for Christmas as of like yesterday. Okay? I don't want to sound like a bit of a smarty pants when I say that, but you need to be able to have that time to get those products forward. Those products, for example, that might hold a high gross profit margin that gets people through the doors, creates sales, but also then puts extra money in the bank as well. So that planning, that rolling. And a lot of the planning might also, depending on the industry, is seasonal as well. That's something that to be very aware of. Again, if you've got any questions, if you're able to put them in the chat area, by all means, please put them in the chat area. Objectives is always a really big thing for me. And a lot of it is about if you've got your business and you have a brand, how do you actually put your brand out there? What is the objective? What is the brand language that you're trying to get out through digital? And that comes down to planning as well. Knowing how you use your branding correctly and how you actually speak a digital language. You know, it's no different, and I often say to people as well, You know, it's just like being a common day merchant face to face with people. It's transferable online. It's transferable online. So the objectives of what we want to get out of our, say, social media, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or our business LinkedIn or our Snapchat, Snapchat in this space. What are the objectives of having those particular social media platforms attached to your business? If you're not actually engaging in those platforms with currency on a weekly basis, hence 3-month rolling plan, get rid of the platforms. It's not good for the look of your business, the look and feel of your business. So that objective goes down to things like brand marketing. So we need to plan that. As I would have said to you 8 years ago in this space, be on every social media platform you can be. These days, I'll say to you, be on a social media platform that's relevant to your business, but also holds currency, okay? Meaning there's activity on your Facebook page quite regularly. That's in the social media space. The same with Google My Business. So planning with Google My Business, for example, might be as simple as your coverage area. So if you're not on Google My Business at this point in time, the objective to make sure that you can actually manipulate a search engine, Google My Business is where you need to be from a planning point of view. So if you don't have Google My Business already, please look at integrating that asset into your business, primarily because it's an awareness point, but it's also a selling point now with the way in which Google My Business works, okay? So the objective of that is to make sure people can find you, all right? And the same with things like websites. You know, websites now, they can't sit there as a idle digital asset. I like to say, let's make it a workable asset. So the objective of a website obviously is to provide information, but the objective of the website is also to be interactive. And now with Facebook Messenger or Messenger, 12 months ago I was banging on about Messenger being a fantastic developing product, and I thought it was going to be very much game changing. 2 days ago, complete new look and feel. If you haven't already had a look, or if it's not changed over on your device yet, or it has changed over on your device and you haven't had a look yet, go and have a look. The objectives of that is to make it easy for people to interact with you through Messenger. So dropping that Messenger icon into your website so people can chat to you, because it's landing in the one spot on Facebook and Instagram, for example. The next big thing will be WhatsApp, just quietly. So the objectives of that are knowing that you need these things in your business and understanding or planning that you need these things in your business, or alternatively, that you don't need them in your business. And you need to be able to establish that in regards to what your end objective is. Any questions at all? If you're too quiet out there, I'm quite happy to answer any questions as we go. I love being challenged and asked questions. Sorry, we go back one. So the outcome side of things is understanding that it's not just about what goes into your bank account. It is wonderful having money. Oh, yes, 100%. But the end outcomes, are we actually planning our digital based on our business plan? Based on our business plan, what we want to achieve as a business and a business owner. You know, for me, for example, the outcomes are, if business owners are thinking about cutting back on their marketing spend at the moment, I would not suggest that. You need to be hardcore into your whether it's digital or whether it's static type marketing. You need that common day investment to get your name out there consistently, and transferring that hard copy marketing, whether it be a billboard or whether it be pamphlets or flyers or whether it be in a newspaper, now more digital, but to transfer it to a landing point which is online, which is your digital platforms. I did mention this there, landing points. For example, outcomes might be more people liking your Facebook page, more audience growth. The bigger the audience, the bigger the opportunity to engage. Social media is a lead generator. It generates leads. It's always so important to have a landing point. In this case, as I mentioned there before, a fully functional, fully optimized website that has the ability for people to be able to chat to you directly. making that linkage. It's a landing point. Okay, so the outcomes might be around that. So as you can probably see, as we progress into the next webinar, we'll be showing you more functional things in regards to the how to do it, how you actually do it. Okay, so that's important. And you can do it. Whether you're doing it as a sole trader or you're going to a marketing agency or a marketer, you can do it. It's critical at this point in time to understand that people are very, very, very selective with their spending. They're very selective with their spending. As I mentioned there before, should be planning for Christmas as of like yesterday, because people are very selective with their spending. Okay, in these common day times. So I think that's important to understand as well. You can do it, whether you want to learn yourself and know how to actually develop your digital platforms, or if you've got to engage a third party, or a partnership or a marketing agency, by all means do so. But it's critical that you get the digital planning aligned with your business plan. No doubt about it. Okay, so just stop that there. So did we have any questions from the floor at all in regards to what's been presented by myself or Tania so far today? Tania, did you want to kick it off and ask me any questions at all?
Let me see. I was actually, maybe, is it okay if I make a statement to start?
Yeah, 100%.
I think, 8 years ago when I started out in my business, I'd been in big corporations for such a long time. Yep. There was a lot for me to learn when I stepped out. And, I was told by other consultants at the time, we don't have Facebook pages for our type of business.
Yep.
And then I saw that another business that I'm closely aligned with, that I work with, same work that I do.
Yep.
They had a Facebook page, and it was like, that was the opening for me then. And something that Clinton's always said to me is that you can't discriminate where people will find you. Obviously, like what he said, in the right avenues, using the right platforms for your business is important. But it's just that awareness, I think, of how much you can achieve through using the digital strategy.
And look, I completely agree. You've got to have some form of direction. I think that more commonly than not, I'm using the term time retrieval. Actually retrieving back time. So when you actually have a business plan in place, and I'm not just talking about a templated business plan that you download from a government website as such, because that's seemed to be changing. It is about understanding what is right for your specific business. How are you going to grow your business? Do you actually want to have, do you want to have employees in your business? Or are you just happy going along as a sole trader? I think that what happens is a lot in the digital space, for example, where business owners see that marketing is working, and it's working well. They start seeing opportunities. Probably a lot of times as well, they start seeing missed opportunities. And I think that's that can come back to the business planning side of things as well, but it is also attributed to the digital planning as well, is knowing the opportunities that are lost.
That sort of brings me to a question. Even though you're obviously working with people who want to do it, are you still coming across people who are still wanting to stay away from it? And if they do have it, they don't want to put their face to it, they don't want to contribute.
Yeah, look, 100%. And I think that it's not just about social media. It's not just about, search engines. It's not just about websites, those digital assets. It's also about systems. I've come across quite a few businesses in the last 12 months, for example, that are still doing things manually. They do their accounts manually. They do everything manually. And I think that is suiting them for this point in time, or it suited them in their point in time in their business. And then what happens is where they are touched upon by someone who will go in and show them, well, there's another way of being able to do this. Accounting software, or using the cloud, and all these type of things. I know it might seem basic. It might seem very basic to the people online here, but it still exists in our business community. So how we take that element of fear away. We take that fear away of, well, if I do this, you know, and like I said earlier, and I've said a few times here today, you know, when people understand that something is going to work and they adopt it, they run with it.
Yeah.
You know, I think, for example, I'll revert to the social media space, or that digital marketing space, where I was working with a gentleman. I don't like putting DAB on anything. I just don't. But I don't want to sound like a hypocrite here. But the gentleman was in his 70s. He's got a pretty good business, and he's got a very good reputation as a business owner out west. But, you know, he didn't have Facebook. He had a website that was extremely outdated. And, you know, with a bit of discussion, we talked about where he wanted his business to be, because it's a family-owned business. His son's going to take it on into the future. And they engaged in a bit of training and planning when it came to digital in that social media space, so on Facebook, yada, yada, yada. And so he's in his early 70s. Didn't have Facebook up until about 9 months ago. Now I'm at the point, talking about planning and useful time management. It's almost to the point where I'm about to ring him up and say, pull back this slightly, because he's loving it. He's enjoying it. He's enjoying delivering his digital. He's enjoying delivering his digital plan. Loving that. He is well engaged. And like I've said to him, is it generating leads for your business? Is it generating work, income? Yeah, and it is for him.
Yeah.
And so he's enjoying it. So whether you're a 70-year-old man or a 20-year-old starting out with your first business, I don't like whacking date of birth on things.
No.
Just me, because I just feel like everyone has the opportunity to learn.
That's right.
They're shown. So yeah, okay. Rightio. Any questions that you'd like to pose to myself or Tania while we sort of wait to see if there's more questions that actually come through, Tania? What are some of the, if you could name 3 key things to take away from a really good sustainable business plan, what would those 3 things be?
Okay, 3 bits. I think the analysis and preparation is key.
Yep. Yes.
If we don't do that properly, then, you know, the business plan is really not going to be worth the paper it's written on, or on the screen that you're looking at it on. And then, you know, and then the other thing is too, especially if you've got employees, sharing that with them. They need to know about it. They need to know what you're working towards. It's no use trying to carry it all on your own. The biggest thing with business planning though is implementation. I've seen a number of businesses who will spend good money on getting a business plan done, and then they don't implement, or they will implement the things that are easy, that they like, that they think is going to be their biggest bang for their buck, but meanwhile, because they haven't done the other things that need to feed into it, the business plan doesn't really, it's not as effective as it should be, if effective at all. So it's all haphazard. So analysis and preparation, involving and engaging those that you need to achieve through, and implementation.
While I think of it as well, is that, that's it. So Alan's just said there, the power of an idea is its implementation, 100%. How it's done. And that might actually, that's a good question from Alan, or a good statement by Alan, because, you know, what about the lifespan of a business plan or a good business plan. Like I know that, like in the digital space or in the marketing space, for example, you've got to have that vision. You've got to have a vision. You've got to have an understanding of how to stand 10 years down the track or 5 years down the track, look back and go, well, this is how I'm going to get there. What about, and without boxing it in from a small, medium, large corporate type business, how long do business plans generally, and this for the people online, what I do often in workshops is I'll ask people if they've actually got a business plan. And sometimes I think they need to call an ambulance, because you might have a room of 20 people and only 2 will put their hand up. And again, I don't want to come across as a smarty or anything like that when I say that, but you got to understand, why you're in business and where you want to go. Lifespan of a business plan, for example, what are you looking at there? Can you break it down a little bit?
Yep. So even though we ask you to look, 3 years out, where you want to be in 3 years, what's the vision?
Yep.
The way I work with people on their business plans is that it's broken into, basically 7 phases.
Yep.
And the first phase will be about quick wins. So like I said before, getting some quick runs on the board, motivating us to keep going, to achieve that vision. We can't stop. And then it goes through another 6 phases. By the time you get to the 7th phase, this is where we're starting to review what we've done in the business plan. Yep. So what actions have we taken? What went well? What didn't go well? Where are our gaps still? What do we need to update in our strategy? And is our vision still the same, or has it changed? Because we may have achieved it. Yep. So for some people, some businesses, so not boxing anyone in, but look, some people can get through that work quickly. It depends on how much is involved in each phase. But, you'd be thinking 12 months is normally a good point that we should be at to look at what we've done, where we've been, what we need to update to keep going, what needs to change. So 12 months is a good figure.
Yeah, so the question there from Fiona, what are the 7 phases?
Okay. So first off, like I said, there's the quick wins. Yep. So those quick and easy things that we need to remove from the business or fix or engage. Then we want to start removing the barriers. So this is where we start looking at what's our purpose in the business. Does everyone share that purpose? Role clarity, who's doing what? Are the right people doing that stuff? And also how we're working together. So we're setting the foundations. Part of those foundations are also looking at what are the processes and procedures that we need, the systems to support our business, really focusing on the high level ones initially before you move on to the next phase. Next phase then starts to look at communication avenues. We also start the sales and marketing stuff in this phase, because once we've got the foundational stuff right, we get into that. And I'm going high level here. There's a lot more that's involved. The next level, we then start looking at, okay, these are our business goals. We need to share these goals throughout the business. We also start setting KPIs for ourselves. So the key performance indicators to be able to measure our progress. That'd be also when you start introducing, if you've got employees, you start introducing performance discussions to them. The next phase is then all about looking at, what have we got within our team? What do we need? What sort of training do we need to be doing for our people? Do we need it? What resources, competencies are we missing that we need to implement now? The next phase is then when we start looking at measuring our progress. So those KPIs we set 2 phases ago, we start looking at measuring them, reporting on them. And then, like I said before, the very last phase is that, let's review where we've come, how far we've come, where we need to go. So that's high level. There's a bit more into that than what I've just said.
I mean, I'm doing a 5-week fitness challenge at the moment, so I want the bells and whistles first, not the hard work. I want the look in 5 weeks. So that's interesting there, though, too. Like, I think that what you just said there about that implementation type phase, and I'm glad that question was actually asked, because It's really concrete type stuff. You know, it's really about knowing this is the direction that you need to take. So, for example, with my 5-week PT challenge, torture test, whatever you want to call it, you know, the guidelines are set out for you, what you need, what the onus is on me as a participant, what I need to do to get to that end journey after 5 weeks. So, besides a lot of moaning and groaning and complaining, it's all set out to get that end bells and whistles type thing. So, yeah.
Can I just add something to it? I don't know if I said this before, but with each of the phases, we want to make sure that we've done them, so finish them off. When I said before, we look at those high-level processes and procedures and systems that need to be in place. It's okay to move to the next phase and still have our lower-level stuff, the processes and systems happening in the background, but each phase needs to be finished before you move on to the next one. Sometimes you might have 5% more to do and it's safe to move on, but that's one of the other keys, is that if we rush it through and don't, you know, embed it, and you're going to have issues down the track.
Okay. This with the next webinar that's coming up, what are some of the key areas that you'll actually be focusing on in the next webinar?
Okay, so the next one is all about creating your message.
Yes.
So, so I always, you know, when I sit down with people, you know, we look at creating your purpose statement. So that's what people would traditionally call a mission statement, but I've gone away from that. So a purpose statement, because we want to have our purpose, what our business is here for. So we're going to look at that. We'll also look at the values of your business. They have a big impact. It's not just around behaviour, it goes through a lot of things. And we'll also look at your unique selling point. You know, the old terminology was your competitive sustainability or something. I can't even think of that right now. But so your unique selling point, so that is why your customers should, you know, interact and buy from you rather than going to your competitors. So that content is important when you're going into your digital strategy, because you need to have it. You need to be able to roll that stuff off your tongue.
Very good. Okay, and just to complement that, I'll be hedging more towards the how and what tools to use when it comes to planning. So this gives me a little bit more of an insight where I'll compare, say, a sole trader to a larger business, for example, and just to show you how you can be very much the same. Okay, so I'll be looking at the things like the planning mechanisms or some planning ideas and how you actually generate that plan, and then moving into the implementation thereof. So the outcome side of things is probably something that we'll talk about later on down the track as well. All right, well, very good. Thank you very much for all the people online today, for coming today. Obviously, you'll get another email there from Business Station in regards to when the next session is. I hope you've enjoyed today's webinar. Just to kick things off from a planning point of view and a digital point of view, feel free to reach out to Tania via her website or via her socials through Impact Improvements. By all means, feel free to reach out through to me via my socials through Begg or www.clittonbegg.com. And that way you'll be able to ask us any questions. Feel free to do so. But other than that, very good. Thank you for your time today, Tania. And thank you very much for everyone taking the time out of your Friday afternoon to come along, or Friday morning in WA. Can't forget that. Now, lunchtime, very shortly. Thank you very much for coming along today.
Thanks, everyone.